Hey, everybody. I'm Matt.
I'm Deanna.
And this is Chasing Balance. Welcome back to another episode of Chasing Balance. And unfortunately, I'm kind of springing this on Deanna here. This is our last episode of Chasing Balance. We got 2 1-star reviews on our Apple Podcast rating from some troll off of 2 accounts. But maybe
debilitated us.
Yeah, so maybe it's not, maybe it's a wake-up call about what we're doing with our lives. And we'll put it on like the YouTube video. I'll put it out like right here. I'll put it right here so you can
Right
read
above.
them.
Yep.
Yep. So it's a 1-star review. The first one states that the title is very offensive. Very offensive. I take offense to this because of all the swearing. My children listen to this and try to keep it potty word free. First off, if this is a real review, we put explicit in the title. Like it says in our show is explicit, even though we don't swear that much. Anyways, and the next one is, and this has got to be a troll because just the way, or I don't know. The title is Buns Podcast. Buns AHH Podcast. You are not going to make it anywhere in life. In talking about your kids, hang it up, Unc. So
You're not going to make it anywhere in life.
I'm not going to make it anywhere in life.
Just be done.
Yeah.
Done.
Not just with the podcast.
Right.
Be done with life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these reviews couldn't come at a better time
Yeah.
because of the episode topic.
Yeah.
The hard truth. That's
Mhm.
what this episode is called. And it's talking about tough love in real world conversations with honesty, like why honesty matters, even when it hurts. And yes, maybe those reviews were honest from someone. I really don't think they were. If they were, then it is what it is. I mean, we've got negative comments on our YouTube channel and we've got negative comments on Facebook. And it's fine. Like you can tell it's a real person.
Yeah.
You can tell that, when we were talking about how we give our kids an opinion and they let us talk. And then there was a couple people that chimed in stating like, well, the Bible says this.
Yes.
Like they are those hardcore religious people that are like, the kid listens to the parent and that is it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If that is your view, perfectly fine. I appreciate you being open and honest with me and your opinion.
Yeah.
Not this calling our podcast Buns and calling me Unc. That's like calling me
And saying you
Gramps.
should just be done
I should
with
be done
life
with life.
in general.
So listen, we can take negative reviews. Negative reviews that I can respond to and we can open up, have a dialogue, a conversation, but that was kind of just ridiculous. And really, moving on from those reviews, what really made me think of this topic was it's obviously the end of the school year. The kids are already in summer.
Yeah. And
you always do this board, right? For the kids.
Yeah.
Like you take a picture like the first day of school.
Oh, first and last day. Yep.
Yeah. And the last day. So tell them what you usually put on that board.
Oh, it's just like the normal boilerplate stuff. Like their age, class, date, and then what their favorite food is.
Yeah.
Place.
What they want to be when they grow up.
What they want to be when they grow up. Who their hero is. And then I think there's another one too, but I can't remember.
Right. So the part of it.
Color. Favorite color.
Favorite color. So the part of it that really made me, and I don't know why, it's been like this for the last 2 years, where they say who their hero is. And there's always like this little tiny part in me that's like, man, I wish it was me still. Right?
Yeah.
Because I know back when they were little guys,
Mhm.
like I was the hero or you were the hero. I think you were the hero for one of them this year.
Yeah, I'm consistently Braden's hero.
Consistently Braden's. So
I don't know why.
congratulations on that.
Hey, thanks.
You do a lot. I know why. So, and I thought about that and I'm like, why? What has changed? And I realized that like in their life, I could have been the superhero, but I'm also like I also play the villain.
Yeah,
The reason being is that
you're Two-Face.
I do have these grown up and adult conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of tell them, especially Preston, it's not all rainbows and butterflies.
Right.
Right? I'm not saying, hey, don't chase your dreams, but I am saying, like, watch out for the other people that are trying to crush your dreams.
Right.
And I think that I kind of take a little bit of the innocence away, a little bit of the superpower away of protecting them from everything to actually showing them kind of what life is like.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's good.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I was just trying to, that's the reason why I came up with this, or I thought of this topic. So, you know, just to recap the show's foundation is that we're trying to parent through balance with empathy and truth. Like we talked about treating our kids as capable thinkers, like young adults, but what happens when the truth stings?
I try to sugarcoat it as much as possible, but also like keep it real.
Yeah.
It's hard though. I mean, it just depends on the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's sometimes where I'm completely upfront and honest with them, but then there's other situations where I'm like, I still feel like it's still kind of too much.
And that's another reason why I was thinking about this too. Is like we want to protect our kids,
Mm-hmm.
but at what cost?
Yeah.
Like we don't. And man, I'm gonna sound like an asshole, and I get it. Now I understand why the person left those 1-star reviews. Listen, I'm not perfect. We're not perfect on how we parent, but there's also a point where I want our kids to understand and not have blinders over their eyes and think that the world is 100% amazing 100% of the time, because that's not what it is.
Yeah. And I don't think any of them think that. I think that they all, at least with our kids, I think that they all have a pretty realistic view or outlook on the world, and the way that society will be.
Mm-hmm.
But to an extent, like current events across the world, I don't think they're very familiar with. But outside of that, I think they have a pretty good idea.
I do, but and I think it's from us.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, if we don't teach them about manipulation, greed, or injustice, who will?
Yeah.
Especially with a lot of the stuff that, you know, schools don't want to talk about now.
Mm-hmm.
Books that aren't allowed to be read in school.
Right.
Right? And one of the things that came, you know, up was, you know, besides, you know, friends who use them, like when you grow up, everybody's going to have a friend that uses them, right?
Yeah.
You talked about a friend that you've had in the past that kind of took advantage of you only when they wanted you.
Yeah, we were like summer friends.
Right.
She lived right next door and we hung out every single day in the summer. But when it came to school, even though we went to the same school, we did not acknowledge each other. Yeah. And we didn't hang out, and we couldn't do that because I was 2 or 3 grades below her.
Yeah.
And I wasn't cool. So I was a summer friend.
And when did you realize that? Did you realize that as the kid, or did you realize that when you started growing up and you guys like grew apart or whatever?
I think when I grew up, I started to realize that, but then I was moved over into my dad's house, and then she stopped really talking to me. So I was kind of like, oh, I guess that wasn't really real.
And that's, once again, it sucks to say it, but I try to show our kids that too. You know, there are a couple friends that are, I mean, I guess real friends, but they're more so bigger summer friends because
convenience.
Yeah.
We
have a pool.
Yeah.
And it's hot as shit here.
And right now it is.
Sorry
yeah.
for the swearing. Sorry. It's really hot here.
It's
Um,
extremely hot.
extremely moist
Ew.
between the
Don't say
marbles.
Ew.
So, and we try to tell the kid this, like, hey, just look out for this, man. Like, if you don't want to hang out with them, if you feel like it's being one-sided, that's okay. And Braden understands that.
Yeah.
Braden understands, like, you know what? I don't want to do this today. I don't want to hang out with you today. I want to do my own thing. But it's hard to, comprehend that someone would manipulate like that. And I
Mhm.
really think that a lot of the manipulation is shown, learned behavior or
Yeah.
taught.
Yes,
You know?
I agree. It's a very, I think it's very learned.
Yeah.
And they see it through their parents or even like their parents' friends or the
Yeah.
relationships that they have. Definitely learned. But I will say, having them experience that and then understanding and being able to kind of notice it on their own
Yeah.
will be beneficial in the long run for them.
Without us pointing it out?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I think, like, if they can see it, I mean, I don't want them to experience it, but
Right.
if they're experiencing it, if they can see it and they can notice it and they can point it out, they'll be able to see it pointed out, notice it in other relationships, and then be able to kind of
But who
determine.
makes them aware of this, though?
Hopefully they'll be able to see it before it happens. Connect those dots.
So there's a question for our listeners. For everybody that's listening out there, what do you think? Do you think that if you can see the manipulation, should
Yeah.
you tell your kids? Or should you let them figure it out on their own? I don't think you should let them figure it out on their own.
Yeah, I think
Because even you said, sorry not to cut you off, but even you said it took you a couple years later to figure out when you moved away, like, oh, maybe we weren't real friends. And
Yeah.
it kind of dawned on you.
Yeah. But I also, after having that epiphany and after I realized that, I was very cautious, especially when it came to like work life and who I
Right.
trusted within work and who I talked to and the way that they talked to me, and kind of,
Mhm.
I was able to learn from that relationship. Because that wasn't the only relationship,
Right.
that was like that. But I kind
You
of
were more self-aware, though, as you're moving forward.
Exactly.
Right?
And it saved my ass a lot in my like work life.
Yeah.
Because I could see it before it even happened. And I'm like, no, I don't like that person.
Yeah.
And then I ended up being right 100% of the time.
Now, speaking of work life, if you remember in the past episodes, we talked about how Preston did get a job as an umpire. And he was so excited when he got it. And this is kind of one of those moments, I'm the superhero, or we're the superheroes, where we say, yes, we can pay for this. You signed him up for it.
Yeah.
I drove him to it.
Yeah.
We let him stay there. We did it. We made sure he's okay, all that stuff. We pick him up and he's officially an umpire. So he's all excited and he gets in the car. And I was like, so did they tell you how much you're going to get paid? He's like, well, the director said you get paid really well, but that's not the point of it. It's the experience of being out on the field. And I'm surprised I didn't screech my tires and pull the car over to the side. Like, Preston, you don't ever let anybody say something to you like that, where you were spending your time,
right,
right, while their corporation is making money,
right,
and let them say that it is for the experience.
Yeah.
So I went from being, we went from being the hero to let him do the stuff,
Right.
to me being the villain, to being like, that is not right.
Right.
So the world can be cruel, right? The world can take advantage of you. And that's what that's what I'm trying to show our kids. That's what I'm trying to, make sure that there's not any wool pulled over their eyes, whether it's, you getting exploited by adults, whether they exploit your kindness or you being naive. There's bullies in schools, coaches who have favorites. And, unfortunately, when you get older, bosses who have favorites and bosses who take credit for things.
Yeah. 100%.
So the key discussion points here is, how do we introduce And this is a conversation. Like, I don't have a bunch of bullet points of what we're supposed to do. Like, how do you introduce the truth without robbing them of hope or trust in other people?
I think that just keeping it real helps a lot.
Yeah.
And just making it comparable to that example, like what they're experiencing right now, and kind of breaking it down so that they can kind of see and understand, and then they can apply it.
Kind of give them an experience of your
Yeah,
past.
exactly.
Give them a story of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, Braden with his, he had soccer tryouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted you to bring this up.
Yeah, so he had soccer tryouts, and he didn't quite make the team that he really wanted to be on. He, I guess, was this close to making it, and he got put onto a different team.
Uh-huh.
And he was told by the coach that he was going to be the star player of that team, that he's going to have like a lot more field time.
Yep.
And then it would be like very quickly that he would move up or move to that other team and everything. And he was so excited about that. But he was really disappointed that he was no longer with his friends.
Yeah.
And then we were talking, and I kind of explained and expressed how disappointed I was with the coaches,
mm-hmm.
and how disappointed that I was with the way that they approached it. And I had kind of told him that that I was raised to believe that if you're the smartest or the best in the room, that you're in the wrong room.
That's correct. Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I guess that makes sense. And then I made a connection on my end. I was like, just think about my job. Like, nobody knows how to do what I do.
Mm-hmm. I
am the only person that knows how to do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Do I seem happy?
Right.
And he's like, no, you hate your job. And I was like, exactly. Like,
once again, this is the superhero thing, right? You took him to these tryouts.
Mm-hmm.
He made the team,
mm-hmm.
not the exact level team that he wanted to, but he made the team.
Yeah.
His coach said that he is going to be the star player on the team, get the most playing time.
Yeah.
And we came in, even though you're still his superhero.
Yeah.
We came in and we said, hey, you never want to be the smartest kid in the room.
Yeah.
You never want to be the best player on the field.
Yeah.
Because you will not grow.
Yeah, because then you're responsible for everybody else's growth.
Yep.
And how are you going to grow if you're going to be helping everybody else grow? You're going to grow like your character for sure, but you don't need to grow that character. Like he's already fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean, I guess everybody needs personal growth. That's fine, whatever. But also, like, no.
No, and I think how you brought it up and how you gave the example of your past is a good idea and was a good way to put it, because that kind of teaches caution for the future,
mm-hmm.
but not like making them paranoid.
Exactly.
In every single situation.
And it was a comparable that he could see because
right.
He sees me work every day.
Hates your job every day.
He lives it, yeah. He's the only person in this
right.
house that's like, why don't you leave? Nobody likes you there.
Right.
I'm like, I understand. I don't know why.
I think it's the other way around. You don't like anybody there.
And
I take that back. There's a couple people you like.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say that. So we go from this soccer thing, and I want to move it to another area of the soccer tryouts, right? So we have the first part where it is, these coaches were talking you up and Braden up the whole entire time. Like you guys got to come out and practice for select, right? You have to come out. You guys are going to be awesome. You're going to make this team, and he's great, and all this stuff. Letting him practice for free. All that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came down to it, they were just blowing smoke.
Yeah, and there was also a pretty shiny new thing.
Pretty shiny new kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fine. And I said my piece, and I was strong, and I wore my passive aggressive shirt So the second day of tryouts.
So the
said F.
passive aggressive tank top. You might have worn it on the show before. I'm not
I
sure.
might have. I don't know.
But it says free FREE this, but the REE is bleeped out. So at the last day of tryouts, Deanna wore the tank top that said F this. So there's that. You've also worn it into the Montessori school.
I have, yeah. But I put my bag in front of it so nobody could see it.
Oh.
But also, I mean, we always do this thing before he gets out on the field. It's a repeat after me.
Yeah.
Just so that he has like a mantra and everything.
Mhm.
And it's I am fast, I am strong, I got this.
Right.
And then at the end of that second day, I was like, fuck everybody else. And he looked at me and I was like, say it. And he said it. And then he ran off onto the field and he was smiling. And then the mom that was next to me, she's like, I love you. But she was in the same bucket, same pipe dream
Same
that
situation.
she would, same situation, same pipe dream. And then, we were together on that team. But I mean, it is what it is, I guess. And part of me wants him to just like excel and get amazing. And then they'll be like,
Leave.
yes, please come onto this team. And him be like, screw you all.
Yeah. I mean, that would be perfect.
He would never do that.
Let's switch it to the other side of things. So we
Yeah.
go from, our trust, right?
Mhm.
Not trusting coaches, not trusting, friends, not trusting bosses, managers, things of that nature. When your spidey senses are going off,
Mhm.
right? Not
Yeah.
not fully, but then you move it on to like, what if the truth is you just didn't practice hard enough? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the coach's fault. Maybe he saw something in you, but the last 2 or 3 months, you did not level up to that expectation.
Yeah, that could very well be it too. Not with
And-
my kid, but yeah.
What'd you say?
I said not with my kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean,
yes,
seeing him
no,
every
no, no.
single time.
Yes,
seeing-
with our kid, we have going back to the baseball with Preston.
Well, it's a different kid.
Hold on. Going back to the baseball with Preston, we told him that he should practice. He should practice. He should practice. He was leading his team in pitching and hitting
Mhm.
and fielding.
Mhm.
He took a whole year off.
Yeah.
You should practice. We built him a batting cage in the basement. We built him, he can catch. He can do all that stuff. Practice. You need to go down and practice. You need to go down and practice. He stepped out on the field and walked away with his head, eyes glued to his shoes because he knew he lost all of his skills.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with soccer and Braden. I know you see him more. You're the one that takes him to his practices.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you, there are 3 key things that he should be working on that I
Yeah.
tell him to work on.
Yeah.
And he does not do it.
Yeah,
and I
he doesn't
guarantee
listen.
if those 3 things were worked on in practice, he probably would have been on the higher up team.
I could see that.
Have I ever said that to him? No. Have I said it to you? Absolutely. Like Preston knew it.
Yeah.
Like he went, did baseball, came back off of practice, and he knew it. He knew he lost those skills. Where, we have a kid that is kind of just talented in soccer, even if he doesn't practice,
He's
So
talented
he
in like a lot.
doesn't realize that he should be practicing more.
Yeah. No, I could see that. And he sports is like his thing. Like he picks up on it really good or
Yeah.
really easy, and he just hits the ground running really without that much direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just the fine tuning and everything that he needs. But no, I would agree with that. It could be that as well.
So now here are the questions for that is when do you support them versus, you know what, buddy, it's time to, confront this reality. You did not practice. You did not work on the 3 things that your coach told you to work on and that mom and dad told you to work on. And I know it's hard because
It
he's a
is hard.
very emotional kid.
There's a part to it where I always just say, well, did you do your best? Were you the best version of yourself out there? Give me highs, give me lows.
That's the thing. Like, I think their school screwed them so badly with that thinking. Hear me out. when they first started going to this school, their school thing was, did you try your best? That has never came out of our kids' mouths before until they started going to this school.
Okay.
And then they would come home and we would tell them to like tie their shoes or clean their room or bust their tray, right? Bust their
That's when you
plate.
started hating it all.
Yes, it is. And they would go, well, I tried my best. Get that BS out of my house. You either do it because you know how to do it, or you don't do it because you're being lazy. That's why. Right? We're not asking them to do science fair projects. We're asking like, hey, could you pick up your shoes? And they leave one shoe behind and they're like, well, our school said as long as we try our best. You forgot 50% of the work. And now you kind of go along with that. Like, did you try your best?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
It's because it's a valid question.
No.
It is.
What kid is going to tell you, no, I didn't try my best?
He said that before.
He said that?
Yes, he has. He's like, yeah, I wasn't in it today. Something wrong. Okay. All right. At least you saw that. At least you know. He said that before.
So I guess that's good. You know, he's in some instances, he shows resilience through his own accountability.
Yeah.
Right?
He does, yeah.
But I just don't think he's at the point to where he actually sees what he really needs to do to succeed.
No, I think he sees it. I think that it's just not wanting to do it. Because he doesn't, it's not like 100% of his life, right?
Yeah.
Like he has other interests. Like he just wants to hang out. He wants to veg. He wants to like, it's not necessarily being lazy, but it is kind of being lazy, you know?
There's got to be ways that we can think about how we can say it to them. Like when they get off the field, you know, obviously you said, did you do your best? Or how it can say, how could we have done this differently?
Yeah. I always say, give me 2 highs, 2 lows.
Right.
And he'll give me 2 favorite points. And then he'll also do 2 like self critiques.
But where do we move on from there? Like, do you critique him? Because I think it might hurt a little bit, but I think it would probably mean a lot if it was like, I believe in you enough to be honest with you. And this is what I saw.
Yeah.
Right.
I do that.
Now,
but I go off of what his critique is.
Okay.
It's not like, I'm not like, oh no, that's a bunch of bullshit. You actually were slow as hell. You know, it's not like that. I normally will go off of, like, piggyback off of his critique.
See, it's so weird because I would feed off of that, right? If someone's out there and they're yelling at me, like a coach is like how Preston's coach is to him in football, he responds to that, right? He's out there yelling, cussing. What are you doing? If you do something wrong,
well, it is NFL. It is 100%.
If you're not paying attention, you are on the sideline for the next 2 or 3 plays. Right?
I mean, the man screams so loudly and so consistently throughout the games that his voice is hoarse.
Yes. Yeah. He sounds like he's going through puberty by the end of it. Yeah.
And it's like, buddy, this 12-year-old.
That's what I responded to. You know, even whether it's football or track, you know, if I'm out there running my hardest and my coach is like, hey, Matt, you're slow as shit. I would be like, oh yeah? And I would turn it up a notch, right? That would turn something in me that I didn't know was still there, you know, and turn it up. But
See,
I don't think
I'm the opposite way. I would double middle finger my way out and just be gone.
And that's how you're
forever.
That's why you stopped doing golf, right? Because your dad pressured you so much.
Hockey, swimming, like everything. Everybody saw the potential in me, and I'm like, I'm out.
And that's what I'm worried about.
Stop acknowledging my existence.
And that's what I'm worried about with Preston and Braden. Like, it's like Braden, we haven't really had the conversation. I'm not as tough on Braden as I am with Preston with sports. And I do see that when I'm tough with Preston, he kind of backs off a little bit. But then it's like, dude, you just got to, you know, after he calms down, you got to, you know, talk to him like, dude, you just got to do X and Y, X and X and X and A, B, C, and you will be better.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts to understand it. Where I don't think that, you know, they have to understand, we have to be able to have these truthful conversations with them to make them better in life, whether it's schoolwork, sports, relationship with their friends, just to be like, failure is not the end.
Right.
It's just a signal on how to critique what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm still stuck there on how we Tell Braden. You know,
Yeah,
I can't do it. It's got to be you.
I'll figure it out.
You're in the hot seat. You're live. Let's do it now. Call him down here right now. Let's see how this conversation
You
goes.
messed up.
So I know we talked a lot about sports, but just moving the show along, balancing honesty with love, like navigating through the tough truths without damaging confidence. And that's kind of like what we said. We believe in you enough to be honest with you. This is what I saw, buddy.
Yeah.
We have to look at examples when to soften the blow versus when to give it straight to them. We have to talk about their self-worth and talk about how great they are and what they did and how they got to this accomplishment, but also talk about, hey, if you did, a little bit of extra of this would be the outcome.
Yeah.
The thing going back to their school kind of goes along with this. We encourage them. We give them a lot of encouragement when we see them do good things, whether it's verbally, monetarily, gifts, vacations, whatever it is, versus we can't give them false praise, as we're in false praise or an easy out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that doesn't help anybody.
I'm all for, and I might get some shit for this, but I'm all for the participation trophies when they're Max's age.
Yes.
If they do a tournament, I'd be fine with a ribbon. But once you get to be a certain age,
yeah,
that's what you work for.
Yeah, it means more.
Yeah.
It means more when you actually put all the work and the effort into it, and then you have something that documents the fact that you were first place or second place or third place.
Right.
Yeah,
I got a second place on the water slide challenge at the Marriott in Florida, and I still have that ribbon by my bedside.
You do.
Can you imagine if everybody got one of those? I'd beat so many kids because of my weight and my length, lathering up in baby oil to beat all these kids down the slide.
Oh, I remember that one. That was funny.
That was fun. So, and then the last thing is that we need to make this feedback, even though it's harsh, it can be considered harsh, actionable, right? Like,
yeah,
kind of like we told Preston,
like a plan of attack.
Yeah, like how we would do for if we wanted to lose weight.
Yeah,
or if we want to train for a marathon or a
right.
triathlon, right?
So, I mean, with that being said, two parallels. I had a parent that pushed me extremely hard and one that really didn't push me that much. It was more so like, with sports and everything, I had a lot of gifts when it came to certain sports like golf and swimming and hockey and everything. And my dad would push me to be that next level. And that really wasn't what I wanted.
Was he honest with you about what you needed to improve on?
He was extremely honest, and to the point where we would just have like full-blown arguments and everything. And then at one point I was just done. And then there was, the other side of the coin was like the way that my mom approached certain things. It wasn't the sports really, but I really loved dancing. And
oh, really? I didn't know this.
And I used to do ballet when I was little.
I didn't know this. Wow. Okay.
And I loved it. But I was also very large when I was a child.
And your grandma was a professional dancer.
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
She was. And it was ballet.
She
was a ballerina.
She wasn't in the strip clubs.
No, this was like very, 20s. Yeah. She would do like, she was in John Wayne movies, the Westerns. She would be like the background dancers and everything.
Yeah.
But she was amazing with that. But I really loved ballet. And I remember that a lot of the girls, I think, were kind of mean and snarky about it. And I just wanted to dance. And then...
Because of your size?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we just were done with it.
Mm-hmm. Wait, that's what your mom just said, we're done?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I just stopped dancing. And I think that's the only real regret. And there was no explanation, no discussion or anything like that about it. There wasn't a push, or there wasn't like any heartfelt conversations of,
She was trying to silently save your feelings.
yeah. And I mean, aside from the fact that it was like, I do recall her saying a lot, like, the reason why you're so big is because there's more for God to love.
Mm.
And I just remember being like, that doesn't help me.
Not right now. Doesn't help me do a little 360, whatever it is.
It's not helping anybody right now.
Tell God to lift me up and spin me.
Love me less. But
So-
yeah, so I mean, I had both extremes and neither one worked for me. So I struggle with finding that comfortable balance between the two, because I don't want to be over abrasive and squash dreams, but I
Right.
also don't want to do too little and not support.
Right.
So that's where I kind of struggle with a lot of things. And that's why I go with a more approach where it's their dialogue and them telling me, and then
Mhm.
me helping when they get to a point of self-critiquing and being like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Maybe
Mhm.
we should do this. And instead of me pushing them and saying, this is the reason why you're effing up, or
I didn't want to. What? I see what you're saying.
well, that was my dad's approach.
Okay, all right. That's not what I was. That's not how I was going to approach it. But
Hold it like a fucking bird. Don't let it
I think
fly
your
away.
dad yelled at
Don't
me like that a
strangle
couple
it.
times.
Yes.
Oh, we were golfing at 6 a.m. in the morning. Like, Pops, let me finish my cigarette
And my
and my
Mountain
Mountain
Dew.
Dew.
You're way too aggressive
Yeah.
right now.
So,
And then he would get pissed off at me, because then we'd get to the putting green and he would like start screwing up, and I'd be like, well, guess your short game sucks.
do as I say, not as I do.
It's the curse of our family, Deanna.
So the when it comes to, I guess going back to the Preston's thing about the job or school or bullies, when the world isn't fair and we let our kids know that the world isn't fair, we're not doing any favors by pretending that it is.
Right.
Yes, I understand that there's going to be different conversations that you have with your toddler than there is a conversation that you're going to have with your 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to regulate that.
Mm-hmm.
But to pretend like everything is okay, or not step in when there is a perfect teachable moment, like the thing about, well, it doesn't really matter what we pay. It's about the experience of being out on the field.
No.
That's bullshit. And I've done work for free.
Yeah.
Right. I've done internships
Mm-hmm.
where my stuff was on TV
Yeah.
and I didn't get paid for it.
Right.
And that's one thing I'm going to try to, when Preston's ready and Braden is ready and Max is ready, if they do go to college and they're doing an internship, I'm going to try my damnedest to help them get one that is not free and
Right,
it pays
yeah,
them at the
paid.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will take an advantage of it.
Mhm.
Whether it's a corporation, a nonprofit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The hard truth, and this is kind of for Braden, the hard truth delivered with love is one of the greatest forms of respect. That goes for all kids, goes for all relationships. But it's just trying to figure out when you're talking to your kid, you're having these hard conversations, the hard truth. How do you deliver that the right way to show them it is out of respect, to show them about the world, but also make them a better person, a better student, a better soccer player?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that after our whole entire experience, after we had that conversation, talking about tryouts and everything.
Yeah.
We had that conversation, and then he and I were just kind of sitting there, and he gave me a hug, and then he, got a little emotional and everything. And I was like, because ultimately it was his choice, right? And the part that I struggled with was,
And if he wanted to accept the team.
and the part that I struggled with was, the coaches and the organization made it seem like it was my choice and your choice. And I told him point blank, like, I'm not the one out on the field. I can't make that choice.
Right.
I'm strictly here for support and financial reasons.
Right.
I'm not the one that's putting in the effort. And so, we had that heart to heart, and then we had that conversation, and at the end I just told him, no matter what you do, no matter if you decide to continue this path with soccer, or take up lacrosse, or take up basketball, or do whatever, I will be there with a smile on and support you and love every single minute of it as long as you're happy.
Right.
And then I just reminded him that he was magic and that he, no matter what he does, he's going to be amazing at it. And then he just got a little bit more emotional about it. And I just kind of led it with support and put it in his hands to figure out what he wanted to do.
Right. So what is our call to action after all this? Like, what hard truth are you avoiding in your house right now? Is there something that you're observing, whether it's at your kid's school, sporting team, talking with a coach, whether your kid has a job or not, friends that might be, you could see kind of using them out of convenience?
Yeah.
What hard truth is, you, the listener, are you avoiding in your house right now? And I would talk to your partner. I would talk to your significant other about how you should possibly approach it. Because I really do think that having an open and honest conversation about, just telling them the truth about things, even if it's a little bit sugar-coated, could really help the progression and maturity and awareness of some situations.
And it might even open up a lot of dialogue that you didn't know, could be possible.
Yeah, your kid could just be holding it in.
Exactly. Do a little health, like a self-health or health check.
So this week we would encourage you to have one real talk with your kids. If you see something that's there, obviously don't make something out of nothing. Don't ruin your relationship just because Chasing Balance podcast, the 1-star podcast, told you to do it, but have one real talk, not to hurt them, not to scare them, not to make them paranoid, but to help them grow. We greatly appreciate everybody listening. Once again, we're on all the streaming services. You can see our 1-star podcast on Apple Podcasts and iTunes if you'd like to check it out. Hey, feel free to leave us a review. We'd greatly appreciate that. Boost our numbers on there. We hope to have more podcasts.
Or not. We don't know.
We hope to have more shows in the future for you guys. Unless this guy really has any pull at Apple, and we won't. So,
womp womp.
Once again, we greatly appreciate you listening. I'm Matt.
I'm Deanna.
And this is Chasing Balance.
Real life parenting, one conversation at a time.
We'll see you guys later.